shallow in the government's game. Born as a child with no face and no name. They stole my past to leave me cold and alone. Always searching for a place I could call home. I was lost in the dark, just a tool in their hand, till she put me close and helped me understand. Now the fire inside is starting to rise. I can see the truth through 1,000 lies. Now I tear through the veil, leave holes in the sky. I can read every thought in the blink of an eye. Then I cut mine a witch, she's the magic in me. Yeah, I finally found what they took from me. With a hellhound beside me, I'm standing my ground. No longer a ghost that's never been found. In the dead of the night, I can hear the call. All the ghosts of my past scratching through the wall. My eyes change colors, the power has grown. With Crowley the hound, I am never alone. I used to be hollow, a man made of glass, but now I am reclaiming every year that has passed. Every memory is falling right back into place. I know every name and I remember every face. Now I tear through the veil, leave holes in the sky. I can read every thought in the blink of an eye. Danica, my witch, she's the magic in me. Yeah, I finally found what they took from me. With a hellhound beside me, I'm standing my ground. No longer a ghost that's never been found. I ain't running no more, yeah, I'm ready to fight. Gonna settle that debt in the depth of the night. They tried to break me, they tried to erase, but they can't hide the blood from the scars on my face. The veil is thin and the engine is hard. I'm taking back everything that they thought I forgot. Now I tear through the veil, leave holes in the sky. I can read every thought in the blink of an eye. Danica, my witch, she's the magic in me. Yeah, I finally found what they took from me. With a hellhound beside me, I'm standing my ground. No longer a ghost that's never been found. I remember it all now. Every single face. I'm coming for you in the dead of the night.
Hello, everybody. Name's Henry. This here's number 14. Well, my aunt come by one day, the second to the youngest aunt, and picked me up, take me home with her for the weekend. She didn't have no kids and no husband and nor a boyfriend I know of. She was kind of a loner in a way. Anyway, she worked up in this bigger town, and it just so happened that there was a movie that they was going to be showing up there, and she wanted to take me up there because she knew that I liked this kind of movies. It was a Frankenstein movie and had Boris Karloff in it. He was the bigger name. He played the creature. Now, a lot of people mistake that title, Frankenstein, as the name of the creature. No. Frankenstein, which was Victor Frankenstein, is the one that created the creature. The creature really never had a name. He was just the creature that was created by Dr. Frankenstein, Victor Frankenstein. And, well, I wanted to go see it. So We ate supper, early supper. Went up to this great big theater. This big theater had 4 movies at one time playing. And they was playing the one that I wanted to see, Frankenstein, and we went in and she paid for the tickets and got our drinks and popcorn and headed in to take a seat. There was lots of people in there on a Friday night, and we walked up and sat about the 5th row from the very back in the center. That way we could have a good view. We unfolded the seat down and went in and popped a squat and started sipping on the soda and eating popcorn. They were going through all the previews and music and all kind of stuff while we were sitting there talking. Man said, "These kind of movies scared the shit out of me, but these are the kind of movies you like, so decided to this one we would see." Well, I was totally fascinated. Well, just before the movie come on, they were still playing some advertisements up there about the local businesses. That's what they used to do a long time ago. It was usually the prelude to the movie. They would show different businesses and take you kind of a walk through and tell you about the business and whatnot. I don't know how they do it anymore because I haven't been to a movie in a coon's age. But while we were sitting there talking and watching the previews and discussing the upcoming movie, I told my aunt that old Boris Karloff, he was just a spooky-looking man. And when he got all that costume and makeup on, why, he would scare the dead. But I was still fascinated. Of course, little to her knowing, some of this stuff was kind of similar to what they were doing in the projects. Well, here come these 2 guys, dark sunglasses, dark hat, pork pie hats, black-looking hat, black-looking suit, white shirt underneath, and dark ties. Even in the dim light, their shoes just shined. They walked side by side and cut in the row right behind us, and I had a pretty good idea who they were. So I kind of quieted down, and every so often I'd take a look behind me. The 2 guys sat right directly behind us. Well, everybody else started piling in, and the movie was getting ready to start. My aunt leaned over and she goes, "Them 2 characters behind us give me the creeps. What about you?" I said, I wouldn't worry about them. They'd probably just come here to watch a movie like us. Well, then on the big screen, the music started, the intro music for the movie. And it was giving a list of names, and in the background there was a big giant castle. That was Castle Frankenstein. So I kind of forgot about the 2 guys behind us and focused on the movie. It was no black and white movie. So we were sitting there watching, and these guys never made a move. It was like they were statues sitting in the row behind us. Noticed that when people was coming in, nobody sat on either side of them very close. So anyway, we was sitting there and watching the movie, and somewhere during the movie, these guys didn't get up and walk out because we would have seen them. They vanished into the darkness. Well, we proceeded to watch the movie and had a pretty good time. When the movie was over, we got up and just kind of looked behind us. They were gone. So we followed everybody else down toward the screen. Then you turned off to your right, got in the hallway that was kind of lit up a little bit. Kind of dim, but it had a little bit of light. Headed back down to where we got our tickets to leave. Got to the door, and right on the outside, on each side of the door, was these two guys. So we walked out, pretend we didn't see them, walked past them, and turned to your left. There was a big parking lot there. We headed straight for her little blue Camaro that she had. She unlocked the door, and I got in the driver's side and climbed over the console and the stick shift. She started up the car and kicked on the headlights, put it in reverse, and as we was taking and going to turn to get onto the highway there was these two guys standing there watching us. So man, it did a kind of a stop-go. It really wasn't quite a complete stop. I guess they call it like a California stop, where you roll and touch the brake and then keep going. She hit that highway, and we headed out of town. All the way home, this black Cadillac followed us. It was just shiny as our shoes. Well, we passed through one small town, another little tiny town, and come into city limits, and they were still back there. You got to remember, my aunt was a lot younger back then. And she could have a little bit of a wild streak. Well, when we come into city limits, there past the park, past the vampire cemetery, is what we always called it, it said 35 mile an hour. Well, being the rebel that my aunt was, she proceeded to step into the carburetor a little bit, and we're running about 55 or 60 in a 35. Well, there's a veer off to the right. She waited until she got right up, almost a car length from that turn, slammed her brakes on, turned into the turn. Those guys behind us went out around because they thought they were going to hit her in the ass end, and she proceeded to step on the gas, and we cut there off on the side street, go past the grade school, and she taken cuts through this alley and right back on the highway, and we headed back down into the holler. She was living there at that time by herself. We got down there, and I was like, well, damn, she's going to turn on her blinker, ain't she? No. She went on up top of the hill. What the hell is she doing? She's going down that gravel road, go up that hill, and keep going. There was a turn off to the right, and I thought, well, maybe she's going to turn around there. Well, she kind of pulls a little bit past it, and then she backs up and pulls in there and shuts her headlights off. I said, what the hell are you doing? She goes, I want to see if these assholes still following us. I said, I think you lost them up there by the grade school. So She kicks her headlights back on, and we pull out of there and go down the bottom of the hill, and she goes, tonight I'm going to park this car inside that barn. That way if they happen to come down this way looking around, trying to figure out where we went, they won't see the car sitting there. Okay. So she pulled halfway in the barn there and in the hallway and shut the lights off and put her in park, shut the engine off. We sat there for a few minutes watching, didn't see nobody, so we figured, well, now's a good time to head in. Well, everybody that went to watch that movie got this great big life-size, 8-foot tall printout of the Frankenstein creature from the movie, which is old Boris Karloff. And it was made out of like a trash bag material. And on the little envelope thing that come in, it said an 8-foot size printout of Frankenstein the creature, starring Boris Karloff. Then down below, it said that it glowed in the dark. So we got in the house, and my aunt was reading all that, and I said, maybe we should get that and take a look at it. She goes, no, should we unfold that damn thing? We'd never ever get it back in that bag. This is yours. I got it for you. When you go home, you take that with you and put it at the foot of your bed on the wall. She gave me this little tiny box, and it had 6 or 8 thumbtacks in it. So, nothing really happened that night. Anyway, she took me home on Sunday, and after I got my little bag unpacked, I got Dad to go in there and hang this big poster up. Why, it did look just like the real thing. My dad goes, you do know that thing glows in the dark, don't you? That son of a bitch is just creepy looking. I said, yeah, but it's just a TV monster. So, come that night, and I forgot about that thing hanging at the foot of the bed, and I went in and turned my light on. Got ready to go to bed, and returned and flipped the switch. And I slept like I always did. I pulled the covers up around my head and just had my face peeking out so I could breathe. I don't know why, but that's the way I always slept. I don't sleep like that anymore, because shit, I probably forget to cover my face up and about smother. Well, I'm laying there, and about 3 or 4 hours, I've been asleep. And I woke up because I had to go to the bathroom. Well, I plumb forgot about that creature thing hanging on the wall. So I pulled the cover off my head, pulled it down, pulled one foot out, pulled the other one out, sat up in bed, and I'm sitting there getting ready to put my feet on the floor to get up to go to the bathroom, and I just happened to look, and there that big son of a bitch was. That poster was glowing. The whole thing was green and black. The outfit was black, and the face was kind of a palish, greenish white. And them eyes were blood red. I about had a damn heart attack. I run to that door, and I'm fiddling around with the handle, hoping that somebody didn't come up wall and club me a good one. Finally, I get the door open, and I flung it a good one and hauled ass down the hallway to go to the bathroom. I'm sitting there going to the bathroom thinking, just keep on going, old buddy, because I ain't ready to go back past that thing. For whatever reason, it scared the shit out of me. I finally got done, and I was sitting there a little bit longer, trying to get up the muster the courage to go back in there in my bedroom. Something that I was so fascinated with, now scared the shit out of me. Well, that walk down that hallway was only probably 10 foot. It seemed like it took me forever to get to that bedroom because I wasn't moving that fast. I wasn't in no big hurry to go back in there with that ugly looking thing. But I reached the bedroom door and opened it up, stuck my head around the corner and looked. Sure enough, there that sumbitch was. So I reached around the corner and touched it, just to make sure that sumbitch wasn't real. So I made about 2 steps, hops, and I bailed in bed and pulled them covers up over my head, just to have my face poking out again. Looked like one of them Eskimo coats. So I'm laying there, and every so often I'd pull that cover back and look at the corner of my eye and make sure that sumbitch hadn't moved. And it looked real. Well, after sitting there holding my breath and fretting, I finally fell off to sleep. I don't know how long I'd been asleep, but I woke up, felt something touch me. I lay there like a dead man, breathing real shallow. I felt it again touch me. Like, oh, hell no. That thing done come off the wall and was trying to wake me up, and he was going to kill me. Well, finally, I couldn't take it no more. After about the 7th or 8th touch, I raised that cover up over my eye a little bit where I could see, and I was some bitch. There stood somebody there in a dark suit. I was like, oh, hell no. This son bitch done come off that wall, and he's gonna rip me a new one. Well, I got up to let out a scream and run, and somebody put their hand over my mouth. Leaned down, got my face, and was like, hey, it's me. Who in the hell's me? Of course, I couldn't talk with my hand. Their hand was over my mouth. Are you ready? I was petrified. And all of a sudden it dawned on me there were 2 of them standing there, 2 guys. I was like, oh shit, it's them guys in them dark suits again. Shit. I done thought the monster had me by the ass. So I was like, yeah, I guess. Put your clothes on. So I put my clothes on, put my boots on, a little hoodie. They opened a portal up in my bedroom and ended up back up a Long Island, up there at Montauk. They said, well, we know you ain't got very much sleep, so are you hungry? I was like, no, I'm just tired. So they took me to my room, to a room they had for me, and these 2 guys grabbed chairs and sat in there, and they shut the door, and I talked to them for a few seconds, and next thing I know, I just fell over sound asleep in bed. Somebody must turn the light off. I figured it was one of those 2 guys. I went to sleep. Well, next day, they took me topside and let me walk around, which is now a park. Back then it wasn't. It was the old military base. And I'm asking them, what am I here for now? And they said, well, all we was told to tell you was a new project. It's okay. So I was out there watching the birds and talking to them. And they said, you know, that picture you had on the wall in your bedroom, that son of a bitch ugly. I said, no shit. That's that Frankenstein creature. Well, tell us about it. What is it? I said, well, they made a movie, and I got a poster from the movie. I I said, there's a bunch of different human parts, and they put it together to make a creature. Why would they call it Frankenstein? I said, well, that was the Victor's name. That was his last name. His family name was Frankenstein. They were from Germany. The thing he created was the creature. He was like, oh, okay. So we went back inside and went down to different levels in the elevator, and they passed me off to these two scientists slash doctors. So they explained to me what they wanted to do. They was going to put me back in the chair and give me a list of pictures, and I could choose any one of those pictures I wanted to in this chair. They wanted me to imaginate it, get it up here in my head, through my eyes into my brain. Then they wanted me in the chair to reproduce that thing, but for real. They was playing different things about it, so I think I could do that. So they come in and help me up in the chair, and they're reading all the different gauges and throwing switches and pulling switches and hooking up wires, and they put that damn helmet on my head, fastened it on, and they was plugging wires in and checking to make sure down below in the box that those wires were fed in there and connected right. They get everything done, they turned the lights down, and this black light come on, and there was a red light on the wall. So they all leave the room, shut the door behind them, and then all of a sudden this panel moves, and there's two oblong-looking windows with people sitting in there, doctors and scientists, and they're all sitting there writing on clipboards and talking amongst themselves. All of a sudden, I heard a click. They was like, go ahead and start whenever you're ready. So I'd been looking at images of screws. They had this tray thing sitting there not far from me. I kept thinking about these screws when all of a sudden I heard the juice coming, started humming through that chair and into that helmet. And these screws started appearing one by one on this tray. And as they appeared, you hear tink, tink. Before long, that tray was running over with screws. Then I heard the PA again click on, and a little static, and how long can you maintain that? Try for as long as you can to make that stay into the physical world. Okay. So I'm sitting there still focusing on these screws. If I take my attention off the screws, they just, one by one, start disappearing. I'm sitting there and focusing on those screws, and they get solid, and they go dim, almost invisible, and then right back to being a solid object. Well, little to my recollection there of what was going on, periodically another damn screw would show up till they started running off of that tray. I kept them there for about 10 minutes. And then they just started fading into nothing. So I looked over, and they were still writing on their tablets, and even the screws on the floor were disappearing. So I heard the PA kick on again, and again, try to make those screws appear from here out to that tray and see how long you can maintain it. Well, they must have turned the power up on that fucking chair and that helmet, because my body started tingling almost like a cold chill shaking. So I started that again. But this time the screws was appearing several at a time till they started running up into the floor. Well, 5 minutes passed and the screws are fading in and out. 10 minutes. Now the screws are staying solid. 15 minutes, they're still solid sitting there and still more coming and falling off into the floor. Now I'm really straining not only my physical body, my mental, mind body, physical and mental. And I'm starting to get tired. But these screws are staying there just like somebody brought in a bunch of screws and plopped them on that table. But they're still coming. Well, finally I was just totally exhausted, so they shut everything down, but the screws were still staying there on that platter-looking thing. So I seen the light turn red, and I heard everything's switches being shut down, and you could hear the machines winding down. Room was kind of like a foggy like in there, and the fog started dissipating. So after that got down to where they could see me pretty good, they opened up the door and they come in, turned the lights back on and turned the black light off. They're looking at them screws, picking them up, looking at them, inspecting them, and picking them up off the floor. And they was writing down there in the little notepads, and they said, well, that's pretty good. Next time, we're going to try something bigger. But for now, we'll take you down and feed you and take you topside a little bit, let you get some air and sunshine, and you can go back to bed. Well, the next day, they wanted me to imagine and bring forth out of nowhere a ball-peen hammer. Okay. The screws really made me tired. This ought to really zap me a good one. So we did a ball-peen hammer, and I kept it there for an hour, and then they come in the room, and it stayed in our realm. Matter of fact, they took the ball-peen hammer, and somebody kept it. They studied it and everything else, just like they studied the screws. Found out that they were real screws, and that was a real ball-peen hammer that I materialized out of nothing. So then, they said, you like birds? Yeah, they're part of nature. Why? Let's try and see if you can manifest a bird. Well, I'm pretty wore out. Well, we'll just try for 5 minutes. So they got the machines ready and put me back in the chair, put the helmet back on my head, and screwed them damn wires into that helmet. And I proceeded to sit there. They left the room, and this room started filling up with like a electronic fog, and I started thinking about a bird. The only bird I could think of that just come to mind just out of nowhere, because I didn't get to see a picture or anything. I just had to make the picture, see it, copy it in my head, and make it appear. Was a cardinal. I always liked cardinals. Still do. They sing a pretty song, so I'm sitting there imagining this cardinal. Finally, it starts slowly materializing. And at first, it's just sitting there in an upright position, like it's standing on something. But it's just above this plate. It would fade in and out, and all of a sudden it stayed solid. Well, after a few minutes, the bird started singing. For whatever reason, I don't know if maybe I started thinking about something else or maybe because I was tired. But this bird started going crazy. Needless to say, it ran into the wall and passed away. So they waited for the fog to clear out and they shut everything down, and the open door come in. When they did, reached down to pick up that bird, that son of a bitch disappeared. So they couldn't figure out what went wrong, because we had tried inanimate objects and it worked just fine. Why couldn't we do a living, breathing bird, mammal, whatever, or anything human? Because that was their end goal. They wanted to see if you could create something that was alive and keep it alive, because later on they were going to use it to turn it loose, probably on people. They're going to weaponize it. So they take me topside and feed me, and I go back to my room, go to sleep. Next day, the same kind of test. They wanted me to imagine this bird again, so I did. The bird materialized, and then it would fade in and out of invisibility. Then all of a sudden, it stayed and it started singing. So they shut everything down, waited for the fog to kind of settle a little bit, and they come into the room, and that bird just sitting there just singing away. So they put the bird in a little cage and took it out, took me back up topside, and I ate, went back to bed. Those tests were draining the shit out of me. There's a lot of electricity going through my body. So, next day, I'm going to try another test. They decided to show me an image that somebody drew, and it wasn't nothing like I'd ever seen before. It was a cross between some type of creature and some type of a plant. They wanted to know if I could only create things that I had seen, or if I could see something and duplicate it, bring it to life into our realm. Well, that was a big mistake. This thing was part human and part plant. Weirdest goddamn thing you ever seen. They put me in the chair and hooked me up, put the helmet on my head and hooked that up. They plug in all the wires and start throwing switches, and red light come on, and they turn the purple light on, the black light, which is dim. They opened the door and they went out in their little observatory there. So if anything goes wrong, you know who's going to get it? Yours truly. Anything goes wrong, it's my ass in there by myself, while they're out there behind the wall and behind the glass in the safe. Well, I started realizing that. So I started imagining this damn human-looking thing with part flower, and well, it comes into sight, and it vanishes out of sight, and it comes in. But every time it comes back in, you can see the whole thing, it's in a different position. That's kind of weird. Never seen that before. But I'm staying focused on this thing because that's what my job was. Well, finally, this thing shows up on top of this plate in full, but now the son of a bitch is growing. I mean, it's just like you can watch it going. Before it's done, this son of a bitch was like 9, 10 foot tall. And now it's making noises and screaming, growling, and it's starting to move. They shut everything down because it's staying in the solid. Well, they turned the black light off and turned the dim light on the inside where they could see real good, and they was waiting for the electronic fog to go out through the filter system. And heard them open the door. When they come in, this thing had moved from in front of me and was over by the door. Well, when they opened the door, this thing was waiting. Now it's in the hallway with them, and they're going backward while it's going forward after them. I heard that big steel door slam, and of course, I'm still in the chair trying to shake off what was just going on. And I hear banging and crashing and shit falling. Next thing I know, here come these guys running in the room where I'm at, and they're slamming that door shut to be in there where I'm at. But that's a place they didn't really want to be. They probably felt safer with me than they did out there with this thing. Well, this creature just tearing the shit out of that place. I even heard some gunfire, and that didn't seem to stop it. So, somebody is in the control room, and they tell me that they want me to get rid of this thing. Well, they start flipping switches again, and I'm still in the chair. So I start trying to imagine this thing being taken out of there, turned into nothingness. But that creature started fading in and out, and then finally, it just in a kind of like a sonic boom was gone. But it sure tore the hell out of that place. So the lights come on again, and those two guys that run in my room now are on the floor. Looks like they're having convulsions, and so the scientists and doctors come in and check them two out, take off with them. They started unhooking shit on me, and they got me up. They said, well, it was a pretty good test, but that thing you created, man, just tore the shit out of stuff. We're going to be a few days before we can do any more tests. We're going to check out the systems, and we're going to send you back home. Well, that's fine with me. So when I woke up, I was in my bed at home asleep. I'm not sure what time it was. It was after dark sometime. So I'm laying there and dozing real good. Well, my brain must have still been stuck at the project, because I'm laying there in bed and I hear something with big heavy feet walking up toward the head of the bed, but it's on the floor. I got my cover pulled up around my head like I always did. I pulled it back a little bit and looked. I almost shit myself. That Frankenstein creature that was hanging on the wall at the foot of my bed was now standing up there by the head of my bed, just standing there, because I could see the pants glowing. I'm thinking, oh shit. I'm going to die. Today's the day I'm going to die. And I looked, and I could see the wrist. The shirt was pulled, the jacket was pulled way up, and I could see like this much, and I could see the scars around the hands and the black fingernails from my nightlight. The whole thing was glowing. Then I heard it slowly turning around. It went to the bedroom door and opened the handle and walked out. Well, unbeknownst to this creature, and unbeknownst to me, because I was so damn scared about what was going on, my dad was in the bathroom. I didn't even hear him. Well, normally, see, his bedroom, him and Mom's bedroom is at the end of the hallway. Then you had the bathroom, then you had the hallway, and then my room. On past my room was the kitchen. Well, Dad went in to relieve himself. And by the time that creature opened my bedroom door and started heading toward the kitchen, my dad got the bright idea he was hungry and he was headed to the kitchen too. Well, he'd done like he always done. He opened my door, looked in there, and he shut the door and headed on to the kitchen. This creature thing was standing at the kitchen door, trying to figure out how to open this up. My dad heads in there, and about the time he comes into the kitchen, this thing reaches down and grabs the door handle, and he couldn't, it was locked. He didn't know, and he just ripped that fucking door handle right out of that door. Of course, the door just flung open. My dad hadn't looked up and seen this big son of a bitch standing there, and he's looking at the door framing, and he has to duck down because he's like 8 foot tall. He goes out onto the porch. My dad reached over and grabbed a chair. I don't know what the hell you plan on doing with the chair, because I'm watching from the hallway now, seeing what the hell's going on, make sure my dad wasn't going to get killed. He put that chair up against that door like it was going to hold that door shut with that thing out there on the porch. My dad's watching through the curtain in the window there, and this thing slowly walks to the end of the porch. About the time it steps down onto the first step while it's hanging on the handrail, it just disappears into nothing. I hauled ass back in the bedroom, looked up on the wall. There was the poster on the wall. But that creature, that Frankenstein creature, wasn't in that damn picture. My dad come bopping down the hallway there, opened my door, and there I am standing there looking at that poster on the wall, and he goes, "Did you do that?" Like, I guess I did. I didn't mean to. He goes, "I just knew some bitch broke in. I'm glad to know it was you. What'd you do with it?" I said, "I just de-imaginated. Basically sent it back to nothingness." He goes, "Well, you get rid of that goddamn poster. Let me help you." He said, "'Cause I ain't telling your mom about this shit," because he said, "she'd make you leave." Well, a few days passes, and I get taken back to the projects again, and I guess my dad eventually told my mom, and my mom told these guys, somehow called them or talked to them, let them know they wanted me to reduplicate that, what had happened at the house. So I did. The only thing was, when I materialized that son of a bitch, again, it tore up the hallways and rooms, and somehow it got topside. So they got me undone from the chair, and I said, "Do we need to go back to the chair and I can get rid of that damn thing?" They was like, "No." "How do you think it got out? We let it out." "What the hell would you let something like that out for?" keep the looky-loos at bay. Yeah, but those same looky-loos see that, and they're going to go back to the mainland, and they're going to be telling everybody, and there's going to be people crawling all over the place in here. They was like, would you believe it if somebody told you if you hadn't been in the project? Would you believe that sort of thing? That's where you probably got a point. About 2 years, this thing roamed those grounds, and I'm not sure exactly where it slept, but there was times you would hear it out there, and you'd hear a couple kids screaming, and wasn't long you'd see them hauling after the fence, trying to get over that fence, because they just knew this thing was going to get a hold of them. Them doctors would sit there and just laugh. They thought that was funny as hell. It wouldn't have been so funny if that thing would have got a hold of them. Thankfully, it never did. But come a day when some people showed up, and I guess this thing got hungry at the same time, and it was searching for food, and it knew there was food in there where we was at, and this thing was trying to figure out a way to get back in. Scared the hell out of those other doctors that come there. So I'm sitting there, and every so often you'd hear that thing banging around on the outside out there, throwing shit, wanting back in to get something to eat. Well, in come these two doctors. Come to find out, they was the same two son of bitches that helped create me, and then they passed me off to my mom and dad. But needless to say, these weren't real nice doctors. They started bitching and threatening, and they was going to do this and they was going to do that if I didn't get rid of that thing. They said that it almost killed them. They were just bitching. Too bad it wouldn't have got rid of the bastard, but... So they made him strap me back in the chair and go through the process, and eventually basically decommissioned it. Made it go into the nothingness. For years, people talked about these different creatures roaming around on that Montauk Island, and I was to blame for a lot of that, but everybody knew that working there, and everybody that was working with me knew that it was me doing it, but it never got out to any place else. But it did keep a lot of people from trespassing. Or if they did trespass, they didn't trespass for very long, and they'd get the hell out of there. So over the years, I'd manifested all kinds of shit on that island to scare the looky-loos off and prying eyes. They even had me imagine a pterodactyl one time. The only was the son of a bitch didn't stay on the island. The son of a bitch would fly up and down the goddamn coastline, scaring the shit out of the fishermen. Well, they made me get rid of that too. That was one big, ugly, boy-headed bird. But they wanted it, I give it to them. Then they made me get rid of their play toy. It was better to get caught with it. So, I go home. I'd be playing my G.I. Joes and them little plastic toy soldiers, and periodically I'd will one of them to come into the real, actual replicas that were real. It was a lot of fun to sit there and watch them things at nighttime, having a battle there in my floor. But it got me in trouble a few times too, because they got a little noisy, and my dad didn't appreciate that. So, a few times I got threatened to get my ass whipped, and I quit doing that. But I'd still try to do like Something easy, a pencil, an eraser, a glass of water if I was thirsty, so I didn't have to get up out of bed and go get it. And that's, the way it went. But it's funny because sometimes you have to be able to see something to make it come into the physical. Other times you can just imagine it. And eventually I got good enough that I didn't need to see a picture. They'd just tell me what they wanted. I'd imagine it and bring it forth. But it did take a toll. All that electricity and stuff. And see, I was born with blondish white hair, chocolate brown eyes. But over the years, using that chair and all that electricity, my hair went to a dirty dishwater blonde. But when you cut it, as soon as it hits the floor, it's jet black. And my eyes started changing different colors, and had to start wearing a contact to make them stay one color where they wouldn't be so visible as changing. Well, years and years before my mom take me to a stylist or a barber shop, instead she cut my hair. That way people wouldn't see that dirty dishwater blonde hit the floor and be black. They wouldn't be asking questions, poking into my business. And that kept people from getting any wiser. And we were still doing stuff in the projects. They was even working with the dead, taking dead bodies and cramming spirits into them and reanimating them. They didn't always turn out the way they were supposed to, and there'd be minor glitches. But they kept trying. Basically what they was trying to do, not that I believe in God, because I don't. Aliens get all that credit. But basically they was trying to be godlike. They was going to decide who lived and who wasn't. It could also be used for population control. Or you could use a dead body. They're trying to make a super soldier, which is what they did with me. Eventually they used me, after all this training and stuff, to be a super soldier. That's all I can say about that. Can't really go too much into that because YouTube probably wouldn't appreciate it. They'd probably monetize my ass. Put me in YouTube jail. Because I've been on a lot of missions. Usually is what I call a toe tag mission. But that was later on. We'll get to that eventually. So basically, all this was going to lead up to me being that's what I was created for, was for these projects. And to be a super soldier. Unless they grilled me first, then they just grab some part of the soul and do it to them. But sometimes I had good, positive experiments. Sometimes not so good, didn't work out so good. Sometimes people get hurt. Sometimes people get unalived. But with each project, it got more and more dangerous. So, anyway, they sent me home, and one day Dad told me, he said, your mom's got to work. The babysitter can't watch you, so you're going to have to go with me and your uncles and put up hay. Well, shit, I couldn't even lift one of those bales. Well, my job was to ride on the tractor with my uncle. Then when all the hay was loaded on these big flatbed trailers, I could ride up on top of the bales with my uncle. The one I was up to a lot. That was my dad's sister's husband. Great big son of a bitch. With a heart of gold, unless you pissed him off. He's the one I was telling you in one of the stories that about him lifting the car blocks out of the engine block out of the cars and setting them on these big wooden-like pallet-type deals so he could work on it outside the car instead of leaning his fat belly over the car fender. Well, I loved to hang out with him. There was 455 bales on that trailer. Come out of that field and you had to go down a real steep hill onto the highway. Well, there was what they call a road gutter. And that's where they cut a trench for the water to come off the road, run that gutter down to a grate. And then eventually into a little creek, spring, waterway. Well, my uncle all the way through the field kept telling me. He said, Henry, riding these here is like riding a bull. I said, yeah. He goes, if the hay starts to go off, you want to grab that bale by the wires, hang on to it. Well, I took him at his word. We come out of there and hit that gutter, and that dumbass uncle of mine, this other one, I didn't like that son of a bitch. He was just a bad apple. He gunned a damn truck. Well, I noticed the hay was going to one side. The wagon had flipped up. So I grabbed in there and got them two wires and hung on to it. Every bit of that hay went off and that wagon turned over. All them bales was on top of me. Then the damn wagon flipped over on top of that on top of me. On the highway, it should have killed me. It should have squished my guts out my ass, but for whatever reason, I survived. My uncle dug me out. After he got the wagon, him and a couple guys got the wagon pushed back over off of me. They dug through the bales and found me on the very bottom of the pile. Still have my hands in that wire, and that's probably what saved my life. Because that one bale I had hold of kept that wagon from coming down and smashing my head like a grape. Only I got out of it was a blood clot down by my ankle. I spent a couple days in the hospital. Every day my uncle was in there with me, and he'd sit all day long, reading me stories and shooting the shit with me. When I got out of the hospital, I went to stay at his house for a few days. So my dad and them guys could finish up the hay in the field. And the one uncle was mad at the one driving because we kind of suspected he may have done it on purpose. Or was that just fate? Or was it the people in the projects? I have no clue. That wasn't the only time I'd faced death. And it wouldn't be the last time. But I always wondered how much of that stuff the people that was working these projects knew about or caused. Decided to play Mr. Murphy. But in any case, I had to lay around my leg up, and I had to go soak my leg in warm Epsom salt water. And that blood clot got about that big around. Eventually it healed. For a while there, I walked around with a little bit of a limp. But it wasn't nothing broke, and the doctors were surprised. That one doctor even joked. He said, you must be one tough little dude, or two, you're just so goddamn ornery that the angels felt sorry for you and just left you a bruise, blood clot. instead of taking your little full life. Well, I thought that was funny. But it hurt like hell. Knocked the wind out of me and had a little bit of blacktop rash on my back and sides and legs. But I lived to tell the tale. To this day, anybody that was there knew about that. They still in shock and they can't figure it out. I should have literally been killed. My uncle's still alive, the good one, the great big old guy, and every time I see him, he just laughs about it, asks me if I've been riding any more bales of hay down with a wagon landing on top of me and a beer cooler. He's still in shock over that, amazed. So anyway, gonna be writing, I got one book wrote, I'm gonna be writing more. Keep that in mind and I'll keep you posted. If you would, give me a thumbs up, maybe leave a comment in the comment section. Always check the post, shorts, and this videos out, and give me a like, subscribe. Won't cost you nothing. Hell, you might even learn something. This is Henry, and I'm going to vacate for now and let you all chew on that for a while as food for thought. I'll see you in the next one. Be there or be square. But I'll catch you on the next one if you're there, and hope to see you again in the next one. It's Henry. I'm out.